Hello and welcome in, ladies and gentlemen. JJ and Jesse here for another episode of Guerilla Hockey. The Avalanche are 6-2.
Yep.
2 straight shutouts in a row. We're going to get to that. But, Jesse, first I want to get to welcome back home.
Thank you.
You've been on every step of the way for every road trip so far.
Yep.
I want to start with that. How has it been so far? It's been kind of a heavy road travel schedule here to start the season. So just as a bystander, a media member, how has it been for you going through all these trips?
Yeah, so it's a great question. I'm glad to be back with you. You and I were texting a bunch when I was gone. It's as we're like getting going and everything here, we're still figuring out how that works. So it's
ironing
good
out
to be,
some kinks still on the fly.
So it's good to be here physically with you, JJ. So I'll answer that kind of a little bit of a longer-winded way because that's the only way I know how.
We got time.
The first trip you were on, Blake came out and met me on a leg, and then I did one of the legs by myself. It was tiring because away from home for 8 days, but really it was good. You know, I felt it was a good trip, especially the Avs had won some games.
The beginning of the season's always invigorating.
Right. You know, you and I had a good time out in LA, good cities, warm weather, stuff like that. It was really good. Home for I think 5 days.
Yeah, not even a week.
Home for 5 days, and then right out to Long Island. And I'll be honest, man, the first part of that trip, I was definitely struggling a bit. I think just West Coast to Mountain Time Zone for just a couple days, Mountain Time Zone out to East. Like that first travel day just really, it messed with me like a fair bit. Got on track, and once I kind of settled in, because it was 7 days. So once I kind of settled in out there, it was better. But what I will say, and I think you can empathize with this a bit because we did a lot of the travel on the Stanley Cup run. And by the time that the travel came to an end, everyone in the media was like, holy smokes, that just takes a real toll. Dude, the last 2 days that I was in Buffalo, my brain felt like it was functioning like at 75%, you know, like it was working. Like I was there, I was, getting done what we need to get done, but like definitely not as mentally sharp. And I say that because I think that you saw that kind of translate to the Avs as well, where out on the road, it's not the physical toll, especially for them. Like we're only a few weeks into the season here, but like that does just like mentally grind you down. And I was getting, plenty of sleep on most nights, perfectly nice hotels, nice beds. There's just no substitute for sleeping in your own bed. Like I woke up yesterday morning feeling more rested than I did at any point while I was gone. And so it's all been really good. It's good to, get out on the road and kind of just sink your teeth into the season. But I know that it took a mental sharpness toll on me. And I think that you kind of saw that translate into what we watched on the ice.
So you saw through exactly what I was trying to set up for you there. And that's
Perfect.
Exactly my thought. Let's get into those 2 shutouts a little bit because you saw the Avalanche start 6-0.
Yep.
Of course, I would say the Blackhawks win expected. I wouldn't, say that was an amazing win. The Sharks win, they had to really grind that out. But all of a sudden, once they hit that Pittsburgh game, it was a completely different team. Mm-hmm. And that's the only thing I could really draw a conclusion to was like, man, this early road heavy schedule might be starting to weigh on them a little bit.
Yeah, and none of them at any point used the road as an excuse or said, hey, we've been away from home a lot. But Ryan Johansson, after the Buffalo game, he said a couple times, and you could definitely tell in his sentiment, he was like, let's get home. Let's get home and get some nights in our own bed here. And again, I don't. And Jared Bednar told us yesterday, I'm not trying to use the road as an excuse, and I don't think they are. They didn't play well, in those last couple games. But you just won't convince me that on the real human side of things, it just mentally wears you down a bit. And here's the one other thing that I feel is interesting, and I'll pause because maybe this is where you were going. Like Jared Bednar did point out, look, a lot of the things that we didn't do well against Pittsburgh and Buffalo, we hadn't been doing well. Like even in those 6 wins, there was a lot of stuff we needed to clean up. And that's where I do just think the mental side of the mental sharpness side came into it. Because in those 6 games that they won, they struggled in certain areas, but they were able to overcome that and get the play cleaned up for, a long enough stretch late in the game to overcome that. And you could just tell that like before those games were even over, you could tell that they were going that way,
Yeah, no, that's definitely an interesting point because you're right. We heard it 100 times from during that win streak. There's still things we got to clean up. I still think we can play better. They still weren't super elated on the way they had played any game.
Yep.
So I guess a couple losses are to be expected, can be excused. I'm going to go ahead and use the road trip as an excuse for them.
Yeah,
but at the same time, last time you and I were here, Jesse, doing our show, I brought up the point of maybe there's a little more to be seen from the goal scoring, right? And after two back-to-back shutouts, I want to dive into that a little bit because, yes, there are things that they had to clean up, things that they wanted to get better at, but scoring 0 goals in 120 minutes of hockey, I think, is a huge red flag.
Yeah. No, so, dude, again, the last time we were talking about it, you were saying I'm concerned about the depth, and I said I'm not worried about it yet. There's been a couple games where they have needed some additional scoring, and they've gotten it when needed. Ryan Johansson, and again, I want to put this caveat on everything that we're about to say. We asked Jack Johnson yesterday. You asked Jack Johnson yesterday. These 2 wins are right back-to-back to each other, and it feels really gross. Like, it feels bad. It's 2 losses. You're 6-2. You're 8 games into the season. So, like, I don't want to do the over-analysis of these 2 games.
Everything's falling apart.
Right.
Sure.
But you through those first 6 games, in my opinion, you had gotten the depth scoring when you needed the depth scoring. On the nights where you needed a little bit of that goal support, whether it came special teams or whatever, you were getting it. Logan O'Connor, Arturi Lehkonen, Ryan Johansson, it was coming. It was fine when you needed it. To your point, didn't these last 2 games. You're now going into tonight with every passing minute, there's going to be people tweeting this many minutes since their last goal, this many minutes since their last goal. So you do, you need not just your top guys. I think the top guys are going to be fired up for tonight. Like, I think McKinnon is pissed. So I think they're going to be going, but like, you do want to see, hey, you just went through a bad goal scoring drought. Go kind of send a message. In this game against St. Louis tonight, you and I got to head to morning skate in about an hour. But yeah, just get the goal scoring feels back going and give your goaltender some goal support. I'm sure we'll get into that. I have a feeling we're going to see not Alexander Georgiev tonight, but yeah. So that's just, I kind of brushed it off last time saying, they were getting it when they needed it. To your point, you've now gone 2 games. You need it. You need someone else to step up now.
Yeah, and just
you need multiple guys to step up.
Got to figure out how to stop being snake bitten and how to stop being snake bitten for extended periods of time, right? I think credit to the teams they're playing. You brought up last time, you're going to get a good game out of a lot of your opponents.
Scoot a little bit closer to me so that you're not working your way out of the frame here. I just want everyone to be able to see how good looking you are.
I think this couch is a little
slanted. I was going to say.
So
I'm just watching you like, you're like groceries. You're just slowly moving that direction.
But what I was going to say is you're seeing some mediocre goalies look stellar against Colorado, and I think they really got to put an end to that. I mean, Mackenzie Blackwood, not amazing. Tristan Jarry, not amazing. Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, always fun to say, but not an amazing goaltender. So there's a level to the goal scoring that needs to be elevated to expectations.
Now, I will say, though, in terms of the goaltending, like, I do think there is a bit of this, that this is going to be part of like the discovery phase for this Avalanche team. Is all 3 of those goaltenders that you just listed were they were coming to that game playing pretty desperate. Mackenzie Blackwood, it's his first start with the San Jose Sharks, playing against a very good Avalanche team that he knows, if I'm not great, we're going to get run out of the building. And I feel like that was pretty true. If he hadn't played the way he did, that would have been ugly.
Yeah.
Tristan Jarry, I mean, he has not had a strong start to the season. That was a game where it's like, I need to have this game or like I'm in trouble.
For the team as a whole, not even just Tristan Jarry, right?
And then the Buffalo Sabres, Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen came in halfway through the game 2 nights before against New Jersey, and, I mean, did not look good. Really struggled. They've got some injury problems, so he was kind of needing to show. And again, I'm with you. The Avs need to find a way to solve these goalies. Those aren't 3 world beater names I just listed, but you and I say it all the time. We're not here to like make excuses or give reasons. We're here to give context, and I do think that is a little bit of important context that I think all 3 of those goalies gave their best performance. And what I mean by this is going to be part of the discovery phase for this team is you've got a lot of guys on this team who were part of that Cup team, who have been part of this organization, they are used to getting everybody's best effort every single night. You got a large portion of this forward core now that is fresh faces that are just coming into this for the first time. Jared Bednar's talked about it. We've got guys who are still learning their roles, still learning the best way we need them to contribute. They want to do more, and we understand that. They can't always be doing more, and we just need everyone bought in and learning that you're going to get everybody's best shot every single night. You are the measuring stick game for any team around the league. And so, like, I again, that's not an excuse. That's not, they're not, to your point, they're not putting the puck in the net when they need to. Mm-hmm. They need to understand you're going to get this game every night out of goaltenders. You've got to figure out a way to solve that.
Yeah, it's not only the goaltenders, but it's the defensive side, the physical side, right? I think look at the Cale Makar injury.
Was really good on defense.
I think you could draw the Cale Makar injury as an exact example of what you're mentioning. I don't think Kyle Okposo goes as hard behind the net to chase down a Cale Makar. I don't think Kyle Okposo tries so hard to lay some sort of body on a guy like Cale Makar if it's not on the Avalanche, right? If they don't need to bring that elevated style of game. So let's get into the Cale Makar injury a little bit. Obviously detrimental for the team if he's missing a large amount of games. I don't expect him to, but I do expect him to miss one or two. I mean, that's just who Cale Makar is, right? I don't know if we'll ever see him play an 82-game season.
Yeah, no, I'm with you.
Which is fine. I think the style of play, he kind of deserves a break here and there.
Well, and dude, you're seeing it a little bit with and small sample size, but like Leo Carlson in Anaheim, the second overall pick. They're doing some load management with him, and again, not that Cale Makar, they need to load manage his. But
it was a conversation last year. It was.
Well, and dude, I asked him about it last year, and he said no. But like, I've always just kind of gotten the sense from him that, to your point, I don't think we'll ever see him play 82 games because he's just like really in tune with his body and how he feels and how he needs to feel to be performing at the highest level. And he just strikes me as someone, and I'm saying this as all a positive thing. He understands, like, I'm not good to go tonight. I can't go tonight. And, like, I think we saw in the playoffs last year what it looks like when he kind of, feels like he has to jump back into that play. He's just not himself. He's still very, very good, still elite, but he's just not the Cale Makar that everybody knows. And I think he understands that. He wants to be as impactful as possible. So I'm with you.
Yeah, with his style as well, right? I don't think it's just him being in tune, but if you have a lower body injury and your primary weapon is your speed and your mobility, you're not going to be able to be as fast and as mobile. So
and he talks about it's a long season. You got to be right at the right time, and I think he takes that very seriously. So I just wanted to add context that it's not. I personally don't think it's a bad thing at all that he's never going to play 82, as long as it's never, as long as it's not large chunks. A month, 2 months at a time. If he's taking games a week here and there, I actually don't see that as a problem, especially the way this Avs group is constructed.
Not to mention last year, anytime Cale Makar would be out of the lineup, the Avalanche for some reason would figure out how to play a much, I don't want to say a better game, but they would win. They'd figure out ways to win without Cale Makar, to the point where even Cale Makar last year was like, oh, maybe I should just stay out of the lineup.
Oh, my God, I forgot about that he said that maybe he was bad luck. Dang, I forgot about that. That's so funny.
So, I don't think it's anything too crazy to worry about. Obviously, we prefer Cale Makar in the lineup, but a couple games here and there, why not give him a rest? It's about the bigger picture. Get him 100% for playoffs, or as close to as you can.
Well, so what did you think of that play? Because let's dig in on this for a second.
I mean, I don't think it was a dirty hit. I think it was an awkward. Hockey just kind of has that here and there, awkward plays, right? Not where a player was meaning to injure another player, but whereas the equipment gets involved, maybe an edge gets caught, or you run into the boards, right? I think, of course, had the boards not been there, had it been an open ice hit, he would have been fine.
Yeah,
right?
he would have been able to. Yeah.
But I think the circumstances, the positioning on the ice just made it look a lot uglier than I think it really was.
Well, and to me, what disappointed me, I called it predatory on Twitter, and rewatching it a bunch, I don't think that Kyle Okposo was trying to do that. But I do think that is an extremely dangerous play. That, like, Kyle Okposo, like, you can't do that, man. Like, you can't, because I mean, like, dude, you've played your whole life. That small, when you're going at that speed and you're going to come around the net, it's like being on a motorcycle, right? Going at high speed. If you catch, just the small little thing that throws you off, and that completely, changes the direction of your skates, your ability to hold yourself up, control where you're going. And that's just one where you can't be doing that. And I don't think it's all that unlike the Jeff Carter play from last year, also on Cale Makar. I don't think Jeff Carter meant to catch Cale Makar up high. I thought that needed to be one game for the league to send the message of, you've got to be in control. Look, Jeff, we know you didn't mean to do that. We don't think that it was malicious, but that's a star player who's now out for multiple weeks. Like, there has to be some type of, you've got to be in control of yourself. And to me, I felt the same way about that. Even if the refs chose for some reason not to penalize that in real time, I thought that was something that needed to be one game. Kyle, we see you make contact. We see the extension. You got to be aware you can't make that kind of contact from the goal line out. Because again, like you said, if that's an open ice, who cares? That's a nice play. You pick up a loose puck and go. That distance from the boards, I think Devon Taves said it after the game. They put stop signs on the back of jerseys starting at youth hockey. That distance from the board at that speeds, I just didn't like that, because that could have been really bad. Mm-hmm. And what did we talk about yesterday in the media room? Players know. Watch Kyle Oposo's posture right after that. He stands up.
Sure, yeah, he expected the penalty call. The malintent wasn't there. I think he could have definitely hit him a lot harder if he wanted to. Yeah. And you played hockey your whole life. You know, when you're up against a good team, or when you really got to bring your best, there are small things that you try to get away with. Mm-hmm. You may think to yourself, hey, this may get called. This might just work out in my favor. I might get away with one here. And that's exactly what happened. Kyle Oposo got away with one. And yeah, sure, it could have been called either direction. No call, or a couple minutes in the box, but that's just the way hockey unfolds sometimes.
I am with you with the on the ice. While I thought it was, in my opinion, I thought it should have been a call. You don't make the call, that's fine. That to me is one of those plays that I do think player safety needs to step in and say, Kyle, we know you didn't mean to. Thank goodness Cale was able to come back, not a serious injury. That's going to be one game, because we have to set the precedent that you just can't make that play at that distance from the boards. That was the part that bothered me. Obviously I'm nowhere near to that level, but I had a play very similar like that happening once at the start of a period. The ice had just been resurfaced. Coming back, wasn't quite enough for icing. And just a small little shove, and I lost my balance. And again, on the fresh ice, I couldn't brace myself quick enough. Hit the wall real hard, hit my head real hard. And again, it's just like, thankfully Cale was fine, but like, we've seen really scary stuff happen on plays like that. That's my only thing. Kyle, we don't know you didn't mean to do it. You go to BioSteel camp with Cale Makar. Don't think you were trying to hurt him. Players got to be aware of where they're at on the ice. One game. That's my thing.
And, of course, you want to protect your stars too, right? I mean,
totally.
Cale Makar, one of the more entertaining players in the league for anybody, not just Avs fans. So having him in the game is in the NHL's best interest. So.
Yeah. I would say so.
With that, I think the Bo Byram sitting out practice yesterday caught us all a little bit by surprise. I guess what do you see there? What do you make of him just missing a practice? Is there anything to look into?
I have no idea. I didn't see anything that could have happened. Now I haven't gone back through like all of his shifts necessarily in that last game, but nothing that stood out in my eyes. He's the one that I think will play tonight. Jared Bednar said that he's expecting one of Cale or Bo to play tonight. He's who I'm expecting to be in. I think Cale sits out a couple games, or a game maybe. So I don't know. I kind of take that as he was a little banged up yesterday.
Literally the words that Jared Bednar used.
Oh, yeah.
It's funny because, looking on Twitter and even some of the more national, I guess, Twitter accounts, they had to just use what everybody was quoting from Jared Bednar. So you saw a bunch of official tweets. Bo and Byram and Cale Makar are out because they were banged up from last night.
Yeah.
Something along those lines. But,
I not necessarily like a maintenance day, because he obviously is nursing something, but I think that was just like a take the day, stay off the ice, rest up, see you on the ice tomorrow.
Yeah.
For Bo.
I'm sure he's still there on the mental side of the game, attending the meetings, looking at film.
I may have to do an insert here if we get to morning skate and he's not on the ice. So I may have to let whoever's editing this know, hey, hold on, I may have something else.
Well, we like to gamble on this show. We're gonna roll the dice.
We're gonna roll the dice that everything we're saying will be accurate in 45 minutes.
Finally, on the Cale injury, I want to touch on Nathan McKinnon's 10-minute misconduct. Right.
Yeah.
I think that was telling. I think you're seeing some frustration out of Nathan McKinnon and the Avalanche as a whole on the, I want to call it, inconsistent refereeing. I mean, you're seeing a lot of obvious calls go uncalled. I mean, I know I just kind of had Kyle Okposo's back, but I still think there was a potential of a call, and the refs decided to go against it.
Let me interrupt you real fast. Weren't you surprised that purely just on optics alone that wasn't called? Just because, like, it's two players, a loud collision into the wall, like, that almost draws a call every time, even to the point where people get frustrated because you watch a replay. It's like, there was no penalty there. I was surprised that there wasn't a call just watching that in real time.
I've been more surprised by some of the hooks that we're seeing. I mean, we're watching the replays of Nathan McKinnon. He's skating, he's buzzing by people, then he gets hooked, and he stops, and he's starting to yell at the refs. You're seeing it bother him to the point where it's like, these calls are so obvious. How are you missing them?
Well, and so, okay, you mentioned inconsistency. Let me give you an example that sticks in my brain, right? So let's go back to the Pittsburgh game. Nathan McKinnon gets called for slashing on really what I thought was, had you called cross-checking, I would have thought it was the softest cross-checking call that we'll see all season. But technically by the book, by the way the rule is written, okay, yeah, I guess that was cross-checking. You're right. And so he goes to the box, really, really soft call. Right as he steps out of the box, he's like a second half out of the box, Pittsburgh scores. So that's more or less a power play goal, right? And then I believe it was at the end of that same period. Again, the Avs hadn't played great, but they were still very much in the game. Nathan McKinnon dances two guys in the neutral zone. I believe it was Chris Letang that he just walked in the zone, and Rise gets by him, I mean, in real time. And again, I'm not trying to sound homerish or anything like that. I'm in the building in real time as I'm watching it. You see Chris Letang's stick come right through. Gets him right on the hands, no call from the near ref or from the trailing ref. And again, to me, up in the press box, I thought it was pretty obvious. And I said, well, maybe it was just a good defensive play, got him right on the stick in between the hands, maybe. I watched the replay and no, that blade is flat right across Nate's hands. Mm-hmm. And that's just one where I'm sure that drives Jared Bednar insane. Because, that's a potential, 2-goal swing there. Because they score, again, essentially on the power play. Nate's not back into the play yet. He's still getting out of the box. And then you're near the end of the period, and I thought that was a pretty obvious call that goes missed. And it's the power play for Pittsburgh on genuinely what I thought was a weak call nets them a goal. And then a really blatant missed call, you'll never know. Maybe the Avs power play obviously hasn't been good the last 2 games. There's no guarantee they score, but that was at a point in a game where the Avs were really looking for something to spark them. And again, I just want to reiterate, Pittsburgh scores on that power play. So who knows how that game kind of gets off, what kind of start that game gets off to if those calls are made appropriately. And I'm sure that if you're the Avs, again, you're never blaming stuff on refs, but that's got to drive you up a wall if you're Jared Bednar.
Yeah, I have 2 thoughts to what you said. Yes, it drives Jared Bednar up a wall, and that's frustrating, but it drives Nathan McKinnon up a wall, and that's detrimental, right? I think him coming out pissed off and him trying harder to score goals, that's when he starts sending them 5 feet over the crossbar. That's when you're not seeing Nathan McKinnon at his best, when he's kind of trying to prove something to someone, right? I think he tries a little bit too hard. My other thought is just looking at years past or even games past, and this is kind of a feeling. Tell me if you think I'm wrong. But I feel like the Avalanche always end up with more power plays than their opponent. Why? Because they're a fast team. The opponents have the opponents have a hard time of just moving their feet with them and keeping up with them. I almost feel the referees intentionally are trying to swallow their whistles a little bit more to not make that gap be even bigger than it already is. Now, I don't think that's correct. Obviously, you want the refs to do their job and do it right. But I think there's a little bit of inappropriate game management from refs to be like, well, we don't want to make it 10 penalties to 2.
Well, and what's so funny is, I was having this conversation with someone where it's you would almost think it would be the opposite of you'd think that those you see it in other sports. The NFL, they talk about it all the time with certain quarterbacks. NBA, talk about it all the time with certain players.
You know how dirty those refs are.
Right, dude, yeah. But that the star players like get extra calls. The top teams get additional calls. I'm with you. It does feel a little bit like there's, like a weird balancing out. And you know, people talk about it with Connor McDavid all the time too, where he doesn't get calls, and it's like, oh well, it's because he's Connor McDavid, and he's always gonna. If you call everything that happens to him, you'll be calling every shift, and it's like, okay, then make a call every shift. Like I don't know if that's his advantage. I do think I hate when people say just call the rule book, because that is one where it's like you'd play every game at 3-on-3 for the entire time. If you truly called the way that things were written, every game would be played at 3-on-3. But yeah, I'm with you. It does seem a little bit like it's like, well, yeah, he would have drawn 4 on this play, so we're just not going to call him.
Right, and the Avs power play is dangerous. Next thing you know, you give them a bunch of power plays, the game's out of hand 6-1, and perhaps you're on national TV and people stop tuning out, right?
I hope that this conversation isn't too all over the place, but like I also, the game management thing, I do think it's a thing that's part of what the ref's job is to manage the game. But like, I don't know do you want to talk about the misconduct that Nate got? Like, did you have that on your am I jumping ahead?
No.
Oh, okay.
That's right where we're at.
So Nate, the Avs don't like the non-call on Makar. And again, I totally, in real time, and again, in my personal opinion, even after watching the replay, I think that should have been something, but I get that that's open to interpretation. In real time, I understand why the Avs are furious. That's Cale Makar. That's one of your best players. That's one of the best players in the world. Now potentially out of the game, and Kyle Oposo and the Buffalo Sabres got a scoring chance out of it. So I understand why they're pissed. And Nathan MacKinnon then goes up, gets teed up, gets the 2 minutes, and then I don't love that they hand him a 10. That is one of those, and Jared Bednar even talked about it after.
My thoughts on it would be, like there's frustration out of our team because that wasn't called. It's obviously a key player for us, and you get a little frustrated and you have a few things to say. I just like the officials to have thicker skin in that spot. They know they may have missed one or decided not to call it, whatever it is. I think you got to take a little bit of harsh feedback in that situation without doling out a 10. I mean, if it carries on, then that's a different story. That's my issue.
That you have to let the Avs have that moment a bit. You have to understand the emotions of where they're at in the game and what just happened. So they give him a 10, and what I don't like about that is I felt like after that you saw the refs over managing the game. Every little thing was getting called both directions. And it's like, see, you tried to like do this to not have an impact on the game, and now you're having an
about you.
Right, and now you end up having a bigger impact on the game because you missed the call and then gave him the 10. And Tim Peel is the unfortunate poster child for this. But, that, again, growing up playing hockey, that happens all the time. I can't tell you how many times I've had refs come up between the box. Hey, sorry, I owe you one for that one. I'll get you one back. I know that wasn't blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, well, we've also seen, if somebody approaches the ref, it's like, excuse me, sir, I don't think that was a very good call. Maybe they're going to have a cordial conversation with you. They're not going to be like, get out of my face. But if you walk up to the ref and you're like, mother F this and F you and you messed up this, you're a clown, then yeah, you might. And so maybe I'm wondering here.
Yeah. Did you ref
is this
growing
where
up?
we're missing Gabe Landeskog?
Oh, yes. I absolutely think so. One way or the other, regardless of what else. Yeah, absolutely. I do think so. But again, I actually don't. I know people didn't like it. I don't have a huge issue with Nate doing that in that situation, because
you just got to be okay with the consequences.
Well,
I'm with it too. I'm fine.
But my thing is, I don't think it should have been. I think he should have gotten a 2. I think he should have gotten teed up. They should have sent him to the box. And that was our miss. We teed him up. He can't say whatever he wants, but
But you also got to know who you're dealing with. I know in men's league we often get a ref that comes on the ice, and you know what to expect out of that ref. You know he's going to make it about himself. You know that there's going to be terrible calls made. you have to, I mean, at the NHL, do that at an even higher level. If you're dealing with a referee that's given you problems in the past, or is going to
TJ Luxmore,
is going to be quick to throw you a 10 instead of a 2, then, reel it back a little bit. But at the same time, I'm okay with showing the emotion. I'm okay with showing that passion and heart.
And I will also say, dude, it drives me nuts when I played, competitively, not just beer league and stuff, and it bothers me when I see it in the NHL, the Nathan McKinnon, Chris Letang thing. He threw his hand up, and then he played through the rest of the shift. The horn goes, the period ends, and he goes up to the ref, and he's doing, this. He's showing him, like, right on my hand. And the ref's just not even talking to him, just telling him to, go to the locker room. I hate that. Mm-hmm. It's like, tell him what you saw. Why didn't you call that? Tell him that you just missed it, or why that you didn't think that it was worthy of being called. The linesman comes down, steps in between, guides McKinnon to the locker room. I've always hated that. Again, even growing up playing, it's like, I'm trying to ask, what did you see? Why did you make that call?
Yep.
And they won't even,
I'm in power. Get out of my face.
Right. I don't have to tell you shit.
Yeah.
I don't have to tell you anything. Get out of here. And that does really bother me, because it's like, I think that, they deserve an explanation at that point. Even if it's a quick, he got you on the stick. There were no hands there. Okay, now I know that you didn't see it right on the hands.
Yeah, or even a simple, I missed it, my bad, I'll get you back.
Right. And dude, I've long been an advocate of, I think the lead official should do media availability every night after games. Again, not because they owe anybody anything, or not because they have to own up to stuff, but again, just like because I'm sure they had a reason for not making the Kyle Oposo call. I'm sure they did. What's wrong with them saying, well, this is what we saw. I didn't see the intent. It looked to me like he lost an edge. When I look at the replay, maybe there was a little bit of contact, but in real time, that's what it looked like. And I don't think anybody would have a gripe with that. If that was the response he gave, it's like, hey, well, you know what? That's what he saw. I get watching. Hockey's a fast game. It moves quick. And I'll bet you on 90% of nights, nobody from the media would even ask to talk to the officials.
That's what I was thinking, yeah.
But just make one available.
Just in case, or in situations like this where some explanation is needed.
Right.
I'm with it.
Because
but then you're opening a whole can of worms, because, then you have to train the refs to make sure they're not saying things that they shouldn't say. Then you...
But I mean, why? I guess my thing is, everyone else in the league has to be like that.
Yeah.
Coaches,
sure.
Front office personnel, players, like they've all got to be in those situations where know what to say, what not to say. And to me, it's your lead official, so it should be like it's never the linesman,
the spokesman, sure,
right?
Yeah.
It's the most tenured official from every game, whatever. And it's, hey, look, this is what we saw. This is why it didn't get called. And I also don't think that it would be bad if they said, and you know what? Yeah, looking at the replay, it definitely looked like he got him there. He didn't get him there. That's a good lesson for us as officials. I've never seen the harm in that, and I don't get why they won't do it.
Came in here expecting to talk Avalanche. I didn't know we'd get you riled up about referee accountability today.
This is something that I'm just like, I think that officials should have to answer.
No, I'm with it. I think,
or explain, I guess.
Yeah, I think there's a way to do it, and it can't be that hard to figure it out. So the NHL should just figure it out, because this is every year. We hear this complaint every single year. Refs should have to answer for themselves, and they don't. So here we are. Moving on, there's a game tonight. Jesse, you already alluded to the fact that we got to get out of here and get to morning skate here shortly. St. Louis Blues in town. A couple AHL call-ups I think are interesting. Of course, Caleb Jones slotting in for whichever defenseman might be missing tonight. But Riley Tufte's addition, I think, is one that raises a little bit of eyebrows, because inserting him in the lineup, not only that, you're inserting him on that second line, right? And so you're inserting him with a purpose. You're inserting him with a plan to play, which means somebody has to come out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, 6 goals in 6 games in the AHL, like Jared Bednar told us yesterday. 3 goals in 5 games in the preseason. And I think it goes back to what you were talking about. I think they're just looking for a spark. He's a big body. He skates well. Obviously, he's got a little bit of a goal-scoring touch to his game right now. I think they're looking to jumpstart him a bit, or jumpstart the offense a bit. Excuse me. And I don't think that whoever it ends up being, I don't know. It could be Tatar, it could be Duren, or it could be Freddie Olofsson. I don't know. Whoever comes out of the lineup, I still do think Riley Tufte's going to have to keep that spot.
Yeah.
We've also seen Jared Bednar. I think he's going to start him there. If it doesn't click right away, I think he'll be quick to take him off that second line. But things are working for him. He plays the way the Avs like to play. I think he's let's see what we got. We clearly need a jump start on offense.
Yeah, and he just attacks the net, right? And I've seen a handful of missed opportunities right around the net so far for the Avalanche. So I think he just kind of fills that void of what coaches are seeing has been lacking so far. So a big body, he's proved it in preseason, he's proved it in the AHL. Of course, the NHL is a step above, but I think his skill set and what he kind of brings to the table and his way of scoring goals is going to be able to translate just fine.
Well, and again, that's what I like about how the Avs have handled Tufte is they kept him around for the first couple games of that road trip, and then they sent him home and sent him down because they wanted him to play, start getting integrated into this system, start feeling more comfortable. And like you said, I think what he's bringing is a lot of what they need right now.
Absolutely. And I think there's just something about, while we're talking about accountability, I think and if you look at Guerilla Sports and our conversation with Tufte yesterday, he kind of alluded to this. It sounded like Jared Bednar sent him to the AHL and said, this is what I want to see from you. I want to see you playing games, but I also need to see this, this, and this. He went down and checked every single one of those boxes.
Yep.
And Jared Bednar said, perfect, way to go. We're going to give you the glory of earning some NHL minutes here.
Yep. Well, and dude, we've talked about it all the time. I think there's a large portion of the Avs fan base that kind of really started following the team in the mid-2010s when their development process was pick high and put them right in the NHL. And so I think that's maybe what still some people are in their brains. That's the way the process should go, but it's not. And really we want players to fill roles. And, there's times where you see people why aren't they playing Oscar Olausson in this role? It's because that's not the role that he'll play in the NHL. And they want to see how do you fill this role with the Eagles in a league that is still a very good league, but it's not to the NHL level. And to your point, they said, hey, we want to go see you do this because we think that would translate to what we need in the NHL level. And he's done it. And Jared Bednar said yesterday that it's about 60-40 in terms of he's played really well and deserves a call-up, and we need a jump start on offense. So, he's done his part. Now there's a need. Because he did his part, it's easy to fill the need.
Yeah, indeed. We'll see how he I guess, slots in and kind of continues to perform in that role because I think that's an interesting thought, right? It's not the typical scenario where you see a top-line AHLer come in and he's on the fourth line, right? So I think that's really interesting to keep an eye on him playing that exact same role almost.
Right. And now, again, if he gets into the game and it's not going well, St. Louis is a physical team. If it's not going well, I think he'll shuffle him down and limit those minutes pretty quick. But, yeah, it's, hey, you filled the role that we needed you to fill. Now let's see if you can fill it here, and we'll just see.
Yeah, and we heard all preseason long about how great the depth of this team is, right? Well, this is the luxury of having that depth. Somebody's not performing, sit them for a little bit, bring in somebody who is performing.
Yep.
Caleb Jones, anything you're expecting to see out of him? Anything you're excited to see out of him in his first game as an Avalanche tonight?
No, I think they've got him cast really well. I think in Chicago last year, he was he was definitely being overextended. Being asked to play bigger minutes. I think the Avs are going to be able to not shelter him necessarily, but play him, again, similar thing. Play him in the role they need him in. You're going to give probably Josh Manson a little bit of an elevated role, probably back with Sam Girard. They have always played well together because they're such different types of players. They've always really kind of played well off of each other. And so really, I think you're just going to ask Caleb Jones, kill penalties, be smart in your own end. And I think he's more than capable of doing that.
Right. While he's potentially slotting in for Cale Makar, nobody's expecting him to be Cale
Makar.
No,
yeah.
Even though they have similar skill sets, there's still not that expectation on him. Just come in, make yourself unnoticeable.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. If you and I end the game tonight, I didn't notice Caleb Jones, successful night.
Right.
All good.
Exactly. Last big conversation I wanted to get into before we wrap it up here, Jesse, is the goaltending. You brought up earlier in the show we expect it to be not Alexander Georgiev was your exact wording. But yeah, Prosvetov sounds like he's going to get his first look tonight. At least that's what we're expecting.
Yeah.
To me, I guess what I read into this, of course, there's the people out there saying, why not call up Annunen, right? Why not give him the minutes there? Why not have maybe who you would consider a little bit better of a goaltender taking over that role? But at the same time, there's plenty of logic behind why they're not doing that.
Well, I think, one, you got to figure out, is he a better goaltender? And maybe he is. You know, I know the organization is very high on Jussi Annunen.
I would say so, but my opinion is worth
But I guess my point is, we haven't seen Prosvetov play a game for the Avs yet. We know he wasn't very good last year in Arizona. We haven't seen him play a game here with the Avs. To me, it's let's get him in a game. You know, get him in a game, see what he does, and then you can kind of start to make that assessment. It's also maybe going to tell you what you have to do going forward. I don't think Pavel Francouz is coming back this year. You know, nobody has told me that explicitly, but just conversations I've had, that's the sense I get, JJ, is that they are not planning on him being back this year. So I think you have to see what you've got in Prosvetov, because he requires waivers and Jussi Annunen doesn't. That's the ultimate trump card. No matter what people think about how much better is this guy than this guy, Jussi Annunen doesn't require waivers. He's still a developing goaltender. You need him playing games. You want Jussi Annunen. He really wasn't even the starter last year for the Eagles. It was Jonas Johansson. Annunen played well. He maybe played better at times. They split starts, but he wasn't really starting. You want him to be the guy in Loveland. Let him continue to get that. He's eligible for waivers next year. Have that conversation of, does he need to be with the NHL club then? For this year, you really call him up when you want to see what how he's looking. If you're maybe going on another long road trip, I think they have like a 5-game East Coast swing in January or February. Bring him up for that. Get him in a game, whatever. But really for me, I think it's because the Avs are high on him is why they've got him down with the Eagles, getting starts, playing games. You're fine if Ivan Prosvetov plays 1 out of every 7. You got to see what you've got in him. Because if he's good, if he's passable for a backup, cool. We got our problem solved.
Yeah.
Because I just don't think that you're going to see them make use of Annunen in the number 2 in Denver. Like, he's not going to be the number 2 with the Avs this year. And that's because they want him playing games. That is not a knock on his ability. They want him starting more than 20 games.
They've got to see what they've got in him. I think you hit it on the head right there. But what I kind of read into that is that this is a bit experimental. This is a bit, the coaching staff looking at the situation and saying, it's more important for us to give Alexander Georgiev a little bit of a break here, a little bit of a rest. If we lose, shoot, we lost.
Yeah.
We're not going to worry about it when we're heading into the playoffs. We're not going to look back at this loss in October. That's assuming they lose. So,
right.
I guess that being said, I'm not too heavy on the Avs money line tonight.
And
right?
It's a home game. You get last change.
You can protect them a little bit.
Right. You're putting Prosvetov in a better situation. D-zone starts, unless it's an icing or a long dump in and cover. You can get the guys out there that you want. Like, it's playing a new goaltender at home is always a little bit easier.
Sure. Just I'm staying away from taking the action on the Avs winning tonight because there's that off
Not
chance.
even the money line, huh?
Not even the
money line. You don't think
line.
they bounce back at all?
Well, I think they do.
Well,
but I think there's that question mark in Prosvetov that you don't necessarily want to put your money where your mouth is. But I think where you do, I like where you said Nathan MacKinnon is going to come out and have a good night. I think you hammer some Nathan MacKinnon props. I mean, right now, the sports book app I'm looking at, Nathan MacKinnon's over on shots tonight is 5.5, which is huge.
That's huge. That's a huge number.
But at a +110, if he hits the over, I could see him shooting 8 times.
Yeah.
Easy peasy.
No, dude, I'm with you. Trying to break through, I think he is going to be hammering the puck on net. It's a great call.
Right. So
positive money.
Not too confident in the goaltending situation, but hey, we're here to see what he's got. We're here to see if he has what it takes, and if he does have what it takes, it puts you in such a more comfortable position and kind of just relieves a huge pressure off the shoulders.
He's got to lead the charge on the ice in terms of do as I do. He's not a do as I say kind of person. He's got to lead the charge there, and then I do think you need a big night from a guy like Ryan Johansson. Even if he's not like on the score sheet in the goal column, like I think you need good nights out of those guys.
Indeed. So yeah, we'll see how all that plays out and how the Avalanche do tonight against St. Louis. 7:30. We almost got a 7 o'clock.
And it's a national game, so I'm expecting closer to 7:50, to be honest.
I do want to touch on one last thing. Paul Stastny retiring. Your favorite memory of Paul Stastny?
It's game 1 overtime winner against the Wild. Easy.
All right.
I guess he had the tying goal and the game winner. So it was his game 1 2014. It was the first Patrick Waugh year.
Right. And that was his last year with the team? Right. I was going to say he left the year I started covering the team. So my first year was his first year gone. So my best memory of Paul Stastny actually comes at a downtown bar. I think it was Milan Hajduk's final game. So the entire team showed up at a bar. And I was one of the few that snuck into where the Avalanche were hanging. I still wasn't a media member yet, so I was like, oh, my gosh, this is so cool. Paul Stastny buys a shot for the entire bar. So my favorite moment of Paul Stastny, he bought me a shot, lemon drop.
There you go. Lemon drop. Nice. All right. Nice, easy shot to take.
Yep.
I'm always down for a lemon drop.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't think I've had one since.
Those were definitely two of the crazier moments I've ever seen at Pepsi Center / Ball Arena was Paul Stastny tying the game late and then winning it in overtime.
Heartbreaking when he left because he just seemed like a guy that was just so Denver through and through.
Well, and it was also like it seemed like, here we go. Nathan MacKinnon helps bring this team back to relevance with McKinnon and Stastny and Duchesne and O'Reilly. Like, this is about to be the best team up the middle, like, you know, whatever. And it felt like they were on this upswing. He leaves. They bring in Jerome McGinley, and things just never really clicked. But it all worked out for the best.
Sure did. Here
yeah.
we are, still talking about a contender. So, time for us to roll to Morning Skate. Jetsy, good episode here, and I'm sure we'll have some more updates from Morning Skate. Thanks to everybody for hanging out with us here on this episode. We'll be back as soon as we can.
Yeah, I was going to say, I would maybe like to do one before, because I'm going to Vegas on Friday. So I don't know, but we definitely want to start being more consistent. I think we have a meeting with Yaroon about it here coming up soon.
Yaroon, our guy. So, yeah, a lot of people here in the background making this work. So we're still trying to iron some things out and bring you a more consistent show here. So thanks again for hanging out with us, and we'll see what happens tonight against St. Louis Blues.